in 30 minutes. How do you talk about the Constitution in 30 minutes?
You can almost read it, and
You can read it, but you can also teach a semester course on
Get
it.
rid of these for you.
all right.
Nice crowd tonight.
Yeah, about T minus 20, Kim.
Excuse me, what?
Or we're about T minus 20 seconds. You ready?
I'm going to get and see if there's any sign.
All right.
Pass that.
Oh, hallelujah. All right. Check. Y'all ready? All right. It is my honor and pleasure tonight to call to order our regular monthly meeting of the Spalding County Board of Elections and Registration, March 14th edition. If everybody would please silence your cell phones and all other electronic devices. As usual, we always begin with the invocation and then pledge to the flag. Tonight, we've got James Newland for invocation and Jim for pledge. So if everybody would stand, please.
Our Heavenly Father, this night we're gathered here together to do the business of the voters of Spalding County. We pray that you would be with us through thy divine Spirit to guide and direct the actions of this board, that they might be appropriate, that they might be lawful, and that they might fulfill the needs of those voters. We thank you for your many blessings, and we pray all of this in the name of thy Son. Amen.
Amen.
Won't you join me in the pledge? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, gentlemen. All right, we don't have any citizen comments tonight, so, do we need a motion to not read all this mess? So if I could get, a motion will be in order to skip reading, the citizen comment rules.
I so move.
So move.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we're gonna skip me reading all that. I've been practicing my Micro Machine Man voice, all month long to read it even faster, but, so we'll have to figure that out next month. Okay, next up is gonna be adoption of the agenda. If everybody will take a look over, do we have any items that we need to add to the agenda tonight? Yes, sir.
I'd like to make an amendment to the agenda, and that is to postpone the review of the bylaws to the next meeting out of respect for Stephanie Winder, who's lost her father.
Okay.
And this is our way of appreciating her expertise and her knowledge of election law.
I second.
Second, okay. So we can do, so do we have any other, any other? If we don't have any other, then, all in favor of deleting item A under old business? Unanimous? Okey dokey, so we just have the one item under old business now. All right, next up, approval of minutes. Give everybody a chance to make sure you've been able to review. We, I think hit a record on number of words last month. Thank you for keeping up with that. I'm amazed, honestly. Everybody good? Motion will be in order to accept the minutes or amend. To accept?
Second.
Accept. Dexter second. Jim first. All in favor? All right, we have approved the minutes for the February 7th regular meeting. All right, next up, the main show tonight, I hope. Or it is actually. So not I hope. I need to speak more definite, right, Carl? I mean, Kim's put all this together, but I mean, this is my second term in terms of serving on the Board of Elections, and I personally know what a thankless job is, and I know anything that we possibly could do to recognize y'all tonight isn't enough, but I want to thank y'all from the bottom of my heart, and I know the board all shares in the sentiment that, you know, that there are no words to give up your time, energy, you know, time with family, long hours, little pay, right? For years and years and years and years. So, you know, thank y'all very, very, very much. With that, I'm going to turn the floor over to Kim.
Good evening, board members. Tonight, we are acknowledging 2 poll managers that combined have contributed 50 years of service to Spalding County voters. We are pleased to celebrate poll managers Christine Napier and Oscar Zellner this evening. First, I would like to say thank you to the staff of the Elections and Voter Registration Office for joining us this evening. And just real quick, we'd like to introduce them for people who have not had the chance to meet them, whether they're viewing online or in person. And they are, I'm going to start with Billy Preston, Voter Registration Coordinator, Sandy Hardy, a Voter Registration Assistant, and where is Mary? There's Mary. Mary, Office Assistant, and Perry Cron, who's over here helping me out, Election System Coordinator. I see many also of our poll workers and our poll managers present tonight, and extend gratitude to each of you who have come to show Christine and Oscar your support. I really do appreciate that. Also joining us this evening is Terry Collin, former election supervisor for Spalding County from 2003 to 2016, who had the privilege of working with Oscar and Christine for many years. So thank you to everyone who's come out in support. Please listen as I share just a very small glimpse into a poll manager's role. Attend a 4-hour training class, striving hard to remember all the do's and don'ts of the election and voter laws, along with acquiring the knowledge of the voter election equipment. Understand and be responsible for the completion of multiple election day forms. Arrive at the office the morning of the day before the election for a poll manager briefing and to pick up supplies. Contribute 3 to 4 hours of their time at their assigned precinct the day before the election to set up and prepare for election day while working their personal schedule around the arrival of election equipment. For many years, this has not been an option at Precinct 10, Carver Road. Arrive between 5 and 5:30 a.m. on Election Day morning to ready the precinct for the opening of the polls. Open the precinct polling location at 7 a.m. sharp. Work tirelessly while coordinating efforts with the election and voter registration staff to problem-solve individual voter issues on Election Day. Create an atmosphere where voters are welcomed and enjoy casting their vote. Wait until the very last voter has voted that was in line by 7 p.m. This can possibly take additional hours, depending on how many are in line. After the last voter has voted, begin closing out and breaking down all equipment after the polls have closed and totals are gathered. Travel with election results along with one poll worker followed by a deputy sheriff to the election office. Wait to be processed in, accounting for all paperwork and results received by the staff. This is a very abbreviated glimpse into the role that Christine and Oscar served faithfully for many years. Christine Napier. Christine Napier began visiting family in Spalding County in 1969 and moved here in 1999 after serving 30 and a half years in the Gallia County School District in Ohio as a school teacher. A friend told Christine about the role of a poll worker and she jumped at the opportunity to serve. Christine's tenure with Spalding County serving as a poll worker and eventually a manager began 20 years ago. She has served under 4 different managers and has served approximately 14 years as poll manager of Precinct 10, Carver Road Fire Station. Christine enjoys spending time with her family, Dr. Kevin Napier and wife Allison of Griffin, along with her 2 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. She also enjoys traveling and has most recently visited Hawaii, I believe that's right, for her 80th birthday. Genealogy has been an interest of Christine's for many years, and she has served in some state offices on behalf of several genealogy societies here in Georgia. Asked of Christine, what is your favorite memory of serving as a poll worker? Christine stated, I enjoy the people, the process, getting along with other poll workers, and working together to make the process of Election Day easy for voters. Charlotte Davis, who has had the privilege of working with Christine for many years, shared with me, I have learned so much from Christine. She is methodical, gets the job done, and gets it done right. We are grateful for your service, Christine. Oscar Zeldner. Oscar is a retired licensed paramedic and first-class firefighter, serving a total of 36 and a half years in this capacity. He started his career with Spalding County in 1982 and moved here in 1984. He served several years with Spalding County before moving his career to Upson County while maintaining residence here in Spalding. Oscar has been married to his beloved wife, Ernestine, referred as I have learned, Teen, for almost 40 years. They have 1 daughter, Tiffany Lawrence, and 2 grandchildren. In his spare time, Oscar enjoys sports and fishing. His interest in voter registration elections began after he ran for the office of coroner many years ago. His first experience with elections started by assisting in the counting of absentee ballots under the direction of Helen Grayson, who was chair of the Board of Elections at that time. His interest, along with the knowledge of the election process, continued to grow, along with his wife's Ernestine, and together they began serving as poll workers at the Birdie Road Clubhouse. In Oscar's second year of service, he became poll manager at Birdie Road Clubhouse, which eventually moved to the County Line Methodist Church, and in 2007 moved to Precinct 6 City Park Gym to serve as poll manager through June of 2022. Asked of Oscar, what is your favorite memory serving as a poll worker and a manager? Oscar said, I enjoyed meeting the different people, helping voters to understand the process so that they were able to vote. Dermesia Kidd, who had the privilege of working with Oscar for several years, shared with me, Oscar has always been a great manager, and I will miss working with him. We are grateful for your service, Oscar. Just as in my short time as election supervisor for Spalding County, I could always take comfort at the time of each election that Precinct 10, Carver Road Fire Station, and Precinct 6, City Park Gym, were both in well-experienced hands. Christine would always brighten the office with just a smile, and her straightforwardness and conversation will always be remembered and appreciated. Oscar, always quiet in nature, through his character of commitment and steadfastness, added the calm and assuredness that is always needed in the storm of an election. Our office always appreciated both of their questions and/or concerns, along with encouragement for a correct process, and they were both a sure pleasure to work with. Therefore, got ahead of myself. When contemplating how to express sincere appreciation and gratitude for Christine and Oscar, it was difficult to find perfect words and enough of them. Christine and Oscar, please know that each of your work ethic, the spirit within you, and your selfless contribution to the citizens of Spalding County is forevermore written on the pages of the history of elections here in our county. Therefore, on behalf of the Spalding County Board of Elections and Voter Registration, our staff, and the county, I present to each of you a plaque in appreciation of your outstanding service to Spalding County as poll manager. Christine Napier, 20 years of service, and Oscar Zellner, 30 years of service. Would you please come forward? Board members, would you please join us? Now, bear with me. Okay? And I'm going to pin in family opportunities as well.
Where you want us?
Just in the picture.
Just in the picture.
Yep, just in the picture.
Okay.
That's very fun. We're all here.
Smile. Big smiles.
That's what we can do.
Thank you, Christine.
Thank you, folks. Thank you, Mary, for everything you've done. Hey, you've been,
Long time no see.
I know. Hey,
Seems like since we yesterday. Okay.
Okay, hold on, everybody stand close, Christine. One more picture with your family.
oh, okay.
Hey, Christine, y'all get in front, we'll get behind. Thank you for
Oh.
all, thank you for all you've done, Christine.
Okay, you're welcome.
Oh, you can, you can come this way.
Everybody, and then maybe the family.
Uh-oh. We should step back a little.
Extreme scene.
Tim's good. Stand in front of him.
Yes, well, stay down.
Share.
I just have to say that I don't think, if I had to serve as chair for 20 or 30 years, that I would look as good as either one of y'all, so. I hope y'all enjoy your retirement. And thank y'all so much. One more time. All righty. Kim, I think you get to do, you got like a 20-page report prepared?
No.
Okay.
This will be short and sweet.
Good.
All right.
Good.
We covered recognition of Christine and Oscar. Budget submission, the FY fiscal 2024 proposed budget was submitted last week to Finance Director Jenna Garrison and Dr. Ledbetter. Budget review with them is scheduled for March the 21st. That's next Tuesday at 2:00 p.m. Just a quick update of Jarvis, the election and voter registration system. Next week will mark 6 weeks after the Secretary of State's office has stated that it would take to iron out any issues and continued updates. We are able to process voter registration records. Reports are not adequately available at this time, as well as some street maintenance, but it's all a work in progress, so it's getting there, it's just taking time. We will visit Troup County tomorrow to view how the new cellular pole pads operate along with the newly added stands printers, as well as along with the software ePulse. A copy of the letter mailed by our state senator Marty Harbin to Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger in regards to the fake ballot found in October of last year during early voting, along with other concerns, has been placed in your folder. I did email that to each of you, but I also put one in your binder as well. An email has been sent to Dr. Ledbetter outlining a list of needs for the Elections and Voter Registration Office to consist of, but not limited to, the following items: relocation of early voting, creating additional security for the election management system and ImageCast Central Workstation, creating additional security for absentee processing, and establishing of individual employee workspace. That concludes my report. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them.
Think. Any questions, everybody good? Okay. I'd love to see some pics of the new stands or whatever for the poll
Yes.
pads. That would be awesome
Right.
to share.
Yeah, we'll get that to you all. And we have asked for, through Dominion, we have asked for pictures, anything that they may have available now that we might get to distribute or just to have on hands ourselves, but it's not available. But with us going to Troup County, we could probably get some
See
pictures.
the same ones. There's some on No Ink's website, but I don't know if they're the same ones or not. So I'm kind of curious to see.
Okay.
So,
Am I correct on
and
that?
then,
You can correct me on that. if I'm wrong. Okay, all right, yeah. Yeah, go
oh,
ahead.
and then, budget reviews the 21st. Is the 23rd still the, budget submission, like, the end of the budgeting process, or has that been moved?
I'm not sure about that date,
Okay.
you're talking about the due date that it's due to them by, or?
Well, you've already submitted it,
Yes,
sitting down with them to go over on the 21st, and then when is it expected to be?
I do not know, we're just
Finalized.
at the,
Okay, so,
we had to submit a date. We met at the supervisor meeting Monday morning, and Jenna asked that we supply a date to them, to all the departments. She asked that we
Gotcha,
supply a
okay.
date. So I turned around and we worked that out, so it's Tuesday afternoon at 2.
okay, so it will be after that then?
Yep.
Okay, very good. Anybody have anything else? All right. Moving on to old business. Evaluation of election supervisor Kim Slaughter. Let's see. Last week has been a little bit of a blur. I will be, I had 3 things under this. One, we discussed what the process would be last time, and agreed that we would run that by HR Director Miles, and he did respond. He was out of the office, and owe the board an email, but figured we were meeting tonight, so figured I could tell y'all in person. He did respond and said that the overall process of using the standardized form that, as far as we know, most of the rest of the county uses, the page one of it has some quantitative, well, qualitative things that have numbers that we can average out, so that we can get an average of those aspects or dimensions of performance from the board. And then there's additionally 3 or 4 open-ended questions. I'll be getting that back out to everybody. Didn't want to do that with like, hey, we need this back by tomorrow, right? So, glad that we've got a little bit more time before budgeting cycle ends. So, we'll send that out, I guess tonight or tomorrow to the board. And I guess the question around process from there is what we had described was, we talked about a couple different things. One would be, Miles as HR director, and representative of the county. Miles was very clear that, Kim is not a normal department head in terms of, Miles would just be there to make sure everything was done according to, Spalding County's HR rules, regulations, state law, et cetera, right? So, serve at the will of the board. Do we want to have this delegated to the chair? Would the board prefer a representative from the Democratic Party as well as the Republican Party, and have 2 folks there? Once it gets up into 3 people, it's got to be an open meeting, and as we discussed last time, that just wouldn't at all be appropriate. And then taking it into executive session, that also wouldn't be appropriate because this is not a disciplinary issue. So, do y'all want to turn it over to me and then I report back, or do we want to get one from each party that's representative, or is there a third option?
I'm okay with turning it over to you.
Okay.
My thoughts are that it seems that it's the responsibility of the whole board, and I don't know how we configure that.
That's been my issue. I still have not actually got on live with Miles on the telephone or in person, and it was my intent to have already done that, but by the time Miles got back to me, like I think Thursday last week, I had more stuff going on and have been playing catch up this week. So I was planning on talking to him, in real time, and that was my main point of concern, is how do we funnel this feedback down, and make sure that the board as a whole, as well as each individual members, concerns are conveyed properly and transparent, properly and accurately, and unambiguously. And then also, how do we record, any response or feedback that Kim has? So, because typically when I'm doing reviews in my day job, it's not a this is how you're doing. It's we call them one-to-ones, and it's very much a two-way process, right? Where but then additionally, we normally don't have one person reporting to 5 people. So that's kind of breaks the entire idea of what a normal review would be. So, Dexter, do you have anything?
I would concur with Jim. I think that we shouldn't put the entire process on the chair. In addition, one issue I would have is how do we incorporate any comments that the public may have in this, if at all?
Okay,
My thoughts is to go back to
Miles?
Miles again. And it might be possible for, in other words, for the members of the board to feed you some comments. In other words, doesn't mean that all five of us have to be there. In other words, he may have more experience in how you pull this off than we do.
In his very short response, he essentially said, yeah, that's how I would do it. But, you know, I in my email to him, it was, hey, what do you think about this approach? Would like to speak about it in more detail. So, let's let Roy chime in, and then we can.
Well, I'm trying to think about how a different department head of a different department, Parks and Recs or whatever, would be evaluated. And it seems to me that the board is the listening portion to hear the public comment. I don't know that it's appropriate to have, at your evaluation, public comment as part of that discussion. That's a question for Miles. It might be a legal question, but certainly we, as the five of us, hear comments. We bring those to our concerns. We're going to get this apparently front page where we're able to look at the questions. You could compile those answers, and then again, you're going to average that out. So you could do that, but I think we already have a mechanism in place to deal with that.
Okay. So it sounds like we can do two things at once. So one is we go ahead and get the form out to everybody. Think I had sent it out or Kim had sent it out, but I'm not sure. But it was 2 pages. The back page just doesn't even apply. It's not part of it, really. Yes, sir.
Is there a reason why this is not being held in executive session since it's a personnel issue?
Well, but, so that actually got brought up last time by Stephanie, and I think even in the minutes, she said specifically since it wasn't a disciplinary issue, and I'll defer to Mr. Broder here if
Yeah, I mean, I would echo that, because it's not disciplinary, there's not a requirement to have it in. Because it's not disciplinary, but there's not a requirement to have it in the executive session for that.
So, and I mean, Stephanie even went further to say that because it was not disciplinary, it should not be in, she phrased it slightly differently, I believe, but,
Now, that's the gist.
okay. So it's kind of rock and hard place, and this sort of supervisory arrangement really, I have not had to figure out before. Kim visiting Troop. I mean, of course, every county's organized slightly differently as well, but it would be good to hear, you know, how Troop County supervisor gets.
I'll be glad to reach out to some other counties and bring suggestions too.
That,
The
I mean,
board.
that would be great. In the meantime, we'll get with Miles and specifically address Dexter's point. But, you know, in the meantime, go ahead and get the form out. Let's tentatively set the 14th. So the 21st is like budget or budget budget negotiation meeting, basically.
Yes, yes.
So would like to try to get something done at least prior to that. So we'll go ahead and get the form out so y'all can read it, take a look at it, feedback. If it doesn't look like it's appropriate or, you know, it doesn't like it's going to work, I think it will work in terms of getting both qualitative and quantitative grading or scoring around performance, and also it has open-ended questions, so you know we can pass through any feedback that we have gotten from voters. So that being said, parallel to that, we'll reach out to Miles. The third parallel path is Kim will ask around, for other supervisors that have 5 bosses to see how it's done in other counties.
I think I'm gonna, excuse me, Ben,
Yes,
I'm
ma'am.
gonna backtrack there. I don't know that it's appropriate, and I think if the board should agree on that together, for me to reach out to give you knowledge of how to evaluate me. So I don't mind reaching out, but I think you all need to be in agreement that that is what I'm to do. Okay?
Fair enough. So, does anyone have an issue with Kim relaying how other supervisors say they're being evaluated? Okay, yeah, I don't see any issue with you passing it along. We can easily verify, so,
Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
something I would find helpful in couching my remarks is have a copy of the job description for an election supervisor.
so, yeah, specifically for this.
In other
this-
words, to read that, I would like that when I make my comments.
Okay, very good. Absolutely. So we will make sure to include that as well. That's a good idea. Okay, so yeah, I have process, schedule, yep, so we've already covered both of those things. Okay. Any other direction? I'll be emailing out as soon as I can, squeeze the last drops out of my clock of time to get it done, but, it will get done. Everybody, any other comments around the process as it stands now?
I spent some years, 20-some years, doing employee evaluations. And one thing that we should remember always is that if you have a good employee, and we do, you should try to make the evaluation process painless if you can't make it enjoyable. Because if you want to keep a good employee, don't beat them up.
Agreed.
No,
What,
no.
so I think I misunderstood what you said about pain.
Well, I don't think she needs 5 people telling her what they think. I think that we can all contribute, but I think a single point of contact would really be a good thing.
Okay, so at this point, unless, Miles tells us otherwise, or unless the board instructs otherwise, we'll go ahead and start gathering our thoughts, job description out, form out, gathering our thoughts, so we can go ahead and start on that particular portion of the process. Talk with Miles, see if he has any additional advice on, 1 person versus 2 people versus, public comment, which, I would tend to agree with Roy on that one. I'm not sure that that would be appropriate, but, I'm sure that we all could pass on those same thoughts, couched in positive language, right? So, if at all possible, so. And, would say by this time next week, we'll at least have a solid plan together. So, was updates on that. And Kim, apologies for us not having this done already. It's been learning since July 21 that things move slow. Things move a lot slower than I want them to move. So, and it seems like the harder I try to push them, the harder it gets for them to move. So, we're trying. Okay. With that, we don't have any new business. Down to board member comments.
Well, my little ad hoc
I'm-
report.
Did we amend to add that?
I'll make it as my comment then.
You can just make it as
Sure.
your comment. Yes, sir.
Want me to go?
Oh, yeah, yes, sir, you're up.
All right, so we are looking to schedule the moving of the files from the secure storage facility back over to 825 so that we can get ready to start scanning that. It's just a matter of scheduling it with the office staff at Becca Owens and Murray, and hopefully we'll have that in the next week or so. The scanning needs to be at 1200 DPI and 16-bit so that they can be put online and be worth something whenever you look at them. Anything that's currently being given to a open records request, we'd like to start getting online so that the staff doesn't have to spend all the time putting all that public information into open records requests. It'll just be available online. The second thing is the remodeling project. If you are interested in the proposals to remodel the office, get with Kim or the staff to go do a walkthrough. Can't do it 3 at a time, so please just do two or fewer at a time, and just go see what the proposal is. It's not a great plan, but it's probably the best plan we can get with the space we have. We have about 30% more stuff than we have space for. So the staff is having to be very creative about how they utilize that space and trying to get away from having to move everything to the Hall of Fame for early voting. Trying to get back to the time, many of y'all that have been here for several years will remember that the early voting used to take place essentially in the same space it is now. But we'd like to get back to not having to move all that equipment. And with that, that's the 60,000 foot view of the ad hoc committee.
Very good. Dexter?
No comments.
Since we're in comment, Jim, if you just want me to save it for during your
Sure.
comments.
No comments.
No comment, well, go ahead.
I had the good fortune of going through a tour. Kim led me, and I had 3 different reactions. One is, who knew that Perry had an architectural background and could develop the renderings?
He wished no one.
Okay? Well, that was impressive in itself. What I saw was that the present staff has lived in the building for 2 years and has an idea of making improvements. And the third thing I really like is a heavy emphasis on security. So for those reasons, I was very impressed with what I saw during the tour.
Very good. James?
I would just like to say that we're very lucky to have dedicated employees like Christine and Oscar, who put in the dedicated service in the time that they did. And if there's anybody else here that's a poll worker, I hope you will take them for your example, because we really appreciate their service. We appreciate your service, and we hope that you'll be with us for 20 years too,
Or 30.
or 30.
We'll take either. Thank you, James. Yeah, absolutely. For anybody that Kim hasn't walked around yet, we need to get the entire board behind it. As Roy said, it's the best option I think we have with what we have to work with. Jim's comment around security, love that. Yes, it's a huge leap forward in terms of physical security, particularly of the election management system that has in the past not had any physical security. But in addition, I mean, actually the thing that jumped out to me the most was that, wait times, efficiency, lines, all of those things, it should cut those down dramatically. And in addition, the stand and everything for the poll path, as well as them being connected cellularly, from a cybersecurity standpoint, it's kind of a neutral thing, but from a poll worker, poll manager standpoint of the dongle falling off and all of that stuff or whatever, like that's going to boost, that's going to lower, processing time and lead to great efficiencies. But, you know, none of that matters if we're having to navigate around the Hall of Fame and be careful, you know, that if we're gonna knock something off of a display or, you know, anything like that. So like we just, we particularly going into a presidential primary and presidential election year next year, I fully support Kim and the rest of the office and the idea that we can't do nothing. So, all right, and yeah, and just one last thing, Oscar, Christine, thank y'all again. Can't thank y'all enough. I know we had some other poll workers, poll managers here. If everybody would, let's just one last standing ovation. We thank y'all. All right. And with that, a motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move.
Second.
Dexter and then James. All right, all in favor? We are out at 6:46, 6:47.
Almost a record.
It is pretty close to a record. Thanks, everybody, for coming.